Welcome to Liner Notes. My name is David Bixler. Tenor saxophonist Rich Perry might be most recognized from his long-term associations with both the Maria Schneider and Vanguard jazz orchestras. But where he truly shines is fronting his quartet with pianist Gary Versace, bassist Jay Anderson, and Vanguard bandmate John Riley on drums and cymbals. In this episode of Liner Notes, we discuss the music and musicians on Progression, his fourth recording on the Steeplechase label with this lineup. Rich Perry, welcome to Liner Notes. Good to see you again, and want to talk about your latest recording that's been released, Progression. From 2023 on Steeplechase, an excellent record. Thanks for taking the time for meeting with us this morning.
Oh, it's great to see you. Thanks. It's a pleasure.
You know, I was thinking you are known probably to a lot of people for your long-standing tenures with Vanguard Orchestra and Maria Schneider. And, you know, I was just thinking they're not unrelated, but, you know, pretty stylistically diverse. And I was just thinking, man, they're really a testament to your musicianship and malleability. To be able to negotiate and excel in both of those situations. But I think like you're really shining. This recording's killing, and I want to jump into this. This your band, as I was reading. This is your fourth recording with this same quartet. So maybe
Yes.
talk a little bit about like your relationship with these guys and maybe how it came together. I mean, Riley might be an obvious one from the Vanguard band, but the other two.
Okay. Yeah, great. I mean, and actually, we've recorded our fifth one, which will come out sometime in some year.
All right.
It's done. And the liner notes are written for that. So that means, and the cover is done. So this band, well, it's easy to explain because, I mean, for many years I played with Harold Danko. We had a group together, and we actually had sought out, made demo tapes in the early 90s to try to have someone put out a CD of ours. And so that was Harold Danko. And at that time it was Scott Colley and Jeff Hirschfield. But then it was Jay Anderson on bass and Jeff Hirschfield. So we played together for many, many years. And then Harold, I mean, the longer he lived up in Rochester, the harder it was. And also, I feel like, I mean, we were still playing together, but I guess I just wanted to I had been playing with Gary Versace for a long time also with this Dave Scott group for one thing, but also he was playing accordion with Maria Schneider. So we knew each other and we played together a lot, and I loved his playing. And, and Jay Anderson, of course, one of my favorite bass players, just an amazing guy. And I feel like sometimes overlooked now. And then John Riley, who I've been playing with for years and years and years. And I, just one day I was like, we should do one of these recordings with John, And it was just it was a good idea because he is just so great to play with and always full of really amazing ideas and suggestions and just great attitude. Also, the reason I picked these guys too is friendship, friendship, and it just makes for a very pleasant atmosphere. There's no tension, no pressure, and great musicians.
Yeah, that's obvious on the recording. Being a steeplechase date, did you knock this out like in 4.5 hours or, kind of no fuss?
I I use the all the time I can
Okay.
for the recordings, which might be 6 hours. I go in prepared with, just to do my usual thing, which is try to get like 3 takes of each song, and then I can choose from them. And you often like the first take can be like a rehearsal, but on some of the recordings, I mean, the first take would be on the CD. Through the years, I mean, not so much lately because the first CD I did with these guys, John, Riley, and Gary, I had written the music, which was a stretch for me because I most of the time I was just recording standards. So, but I had written a lot of little things, and it was just we are just going to try them, you know. So it may have been a more difficult process because when I was just recording standards, I would actually record more than I would need, and then select the best ones.
Okay.
And sometimes I would go back to certain tunes the next recording, see if it worked out then, and then sometimes it wouldn't, and then I would do it again the next year. That's the beauty of, like, with Steeplechase, which is the opportunity was almost like a yearly thing, you know? So, it's very what's the word? I'm lucky. Had to have the opportunity, I guess, to say that to do that.
Definitely, man. So when you were doing standards, were you just going in there, no rehearsal, and just like it was a session that was being recorded?
Sometimes and then sometimes there would be a rehearsal. I mean, a lot of times there wasn't a rehearsal, and then we would just try different concepts of them, but, occasionally there was a rehearsal, and, I mean, I did a organ one with Gary and Jeff Hirsch with Gary Versace and Jeff Hirschfield, and then we rehearsed for that, and Gary, came up with some great ideas. Actually, I mean, Gary should take a lot of the credit for some of these things where he has just arranged things on the fly and made like, so some of my little originals were just very simple things, and he actually orchestrated them at the piano while we were recording it, so,
At the session, okay, gotcha.
yes.
Now, was there a rehearsal for this? Because on this one, you had one of Gary's tunes, "Rebirth." Two by John, Blind Faith and No Lines, and then the, surprise guest composer, Michael Brorby. You're doing a couple of his tunes on this, so were these
Yes.
tunes that you guys had played, or you just, like, read them in the studio?
Okay, Gary sent me his tune, as well as John Riley did. There was no rehearsal, just in the studio, but they had sent me their tunes, and Gary made a play along.
Such an educator.
Yes, well, that's my common ground, if you can make me a play along, then, I can learn it. But I mean, a lot of people do that.
Yeah.
I mean, my friend Dave Scott, the trumpet player, he writes some pretty hard changes, and he'll play at the piano. He'll play a few times through it and send it to me, and then so I can like practice playing on it. Same thing with Gary and yeah. But other than that, no, there was no rehearsal. I mean, often it's just not an option.
No, with everyone's schedules for sure, man. And I mean, the play along thing is cool. I mean, to turn like crazy hieroglyphics into sound is
Yes,
uh
I need that.
yeah, no, I hear you there. A couple so like you take responsibility for a number of compositions on here. Yeah, the first one, I listened to this progression and I was thinking, man, what tune is this? Man, I couldn't figure it out. It wasn't until I got the liner notes that I saw that it's everything I love. I thought, man, like, too, like, so you just blew on it.
Yes.
No melody, what's the rationale behind that?
Okay, this is it. The rationale is that I recorded that song once before, and I totally screwed it up. I think, but, maybe people wouldn't be able to tell so much, but, the changes I had for it were weird, and I didn't know anything. I didn't really know the song. I should have consulted with Bill Charlap. And, I do have access to him over at William Patterson, but I didn't, because he's always happy to, like, help out with, like, a real version of a tune, because he really
Yeah,
knows.
that's his thing, sure, man.
Anyway, so it was like, someone heard it and said, "Wow, that has some really weird changes on that tune," and I was like, "Yeah, it's not great." So then I got different changes, and I was practicing it, and I was like, "I'm gonna record it again." So that's because I felt like I really enjoyed playing on it, and I thought I could do it well. And I was listening to the Keith Jarrett version of it from the early Keith Jarrett record. I can't remember what it is. Was it Life Between the Exit Signs? One of those really early ones. So I was like, I'm going to do it again. And plenty of people have recorded the same songs over and over, like Lee Konitz, for instance, one of my heroes.
Sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's kind of an interesting melody. I mean, I was thinking about this with Cherokee. Often, if I'm playing that, I just like skip the head or play like 4 bars of it because it just
Yes.
goes on forever.
Yes. Actually, I recorded Cherokee as a ballad and did not play the melody until the very end.
Mhm.
I guess I'm Bob Brookmeyer was one of the people who would do that a lot, and that's kinda like what yes, it would be nice to write, like, a line on it, that is more difficult.
Yeah. Yeah, alright.
But
Well,
Bob Brookmeyer used to play I mean, he would often play, like, tunes and just start blowing. I mean,
mhm.
so he was partially my inspiration, but also, like, it's like then a mystery, like, what people can, like, listen to it and go like, "Hmm, that tune sounds interesting. What is that?"
Well, yeah, you got me, man. I mean, that's
Yeah.
that's exactly where I was, so, because, also, like, how you guys were blowing on it, it was a little hidden,
Yes.
purposely. Took a minute, I think you made your point with that though, man, so that's cool.
That's good.
So, the thing that really struck me, though, you have 4 pithy tunes. And I'm curious about them both musically and the title, if you care to, if there's any backstory. But Mud, Pause, Living, and Now are interspersed, 2 to 3 minutes of,
Yes.
they're and it's really refreshing, man. I mean, it's
Yes, well, that's been my, what I've been doing is, like, compositionally, which is minimal, and so, I mean, I have, like, 2 CDs of examples of that kind of just like very kind of like one chord, little motivic tunes, you know?
Mhm.
And well, I mean, the titles are cryptic because one of them is named after the Mud Coffee Shop on 9th Street, Mud.
Oh,
What was the other one? Mud
I
there's
got Pause Living in
Pause.
Now.
Pause was from the Pause Cafe at down on Clinton Street. These are places that I hang out with my friends. And then Living Now is a title of a group that I'm involved in, and which is connected to the Pause Cafe and the Mud Cafe,
Oh, okay.
which I really can't say what it is,
Alright. That is cool. Yeah.
but it is something that's part of my life.
Okay.
Let's just say,
Alright.
a good thing.
So
But
these are kind of reflections on,
yes,
these communities.
yes, exactly. It's one community. They're all so all the titles are connected in a way,
Ah,
you
okay.
know. And also, it's hard to come up with titles.
Sure.
It's hard. You know, it can be difficult. I
Yeah.
remember with Paul Bley, I recorded with Paul Bley one time, and he had at that time, it was years ago. I mean, it was, I don't know how long, a long time ago. And he had a pocket organizer. It was like he didn't have, it was well before cell phones. And he had lists of tune titles so that if he could play something in the studio, just improvise something or play a tune on, that's another thing. There you go. I mean, we played a few tunes like Lover Man, never played the melody, and he called it Love, So there's another reason I could go ahead and say this is progression. But he had a list of tune names in his pocket organizer in case he needed them.
Very cool. Alright. Sometimes with a recording, I think about, like CDs sometimes are just, like, too long. For
Right. Oh
me
yeah.
to count like a half of an LP is perfect for my attention span. So
Mm.
like this was like as a listener, I found these like really kind of refreshing. Now, are these something that you would do on a live gig with the quartet?
Yes, definitely. And I thought of it exactly like you're saying, like little pauses in between. And I do agree that the CDs are too long, but I mean, it's like with Steeplechase, you're kind of mandated to have at least 60 minutes. Also, I realize that these recordings are not going to be for a mass audience. I mean, it's a very selective audience. I mean, if any at all.
Come on now.
But I mean, so, and of course, no one, I don't know, does anyone actually, I mean, rarely does anyone listen to the whole thing start to finish. I don't know. I'm guilty of that now that we can go on. I mean, I still call it iTunes, and I want to check out some new person's music, and I'll buy 2 or 3 or 4 tunes,
Mhm.
and see if I like it.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Okay, fair.
I try to figure out which ones might be the most, indicative of, whatever.
Judging by the title that was pulled out of the pocket organizer.
Right, but also, and also the snippet that they play
Oh,
on
right. Yeah.
Apple, they play a snippet. It could be in the middle of the song, it could be in the middle of a drum solo or something. So,
All right.
I mean, I'm guilty of that too.
Mm. You mentioned William Patterson, and before I go to you as teacher, you have a very unique and personal sound, like as a saxophonist, one that I really appreciate like your patience and everything, and just like very unique intervallically, and your lines, and then also like you're playing with the time. And, so first I wanna ask you, is this, like, something that you've been doing for the last 40 years? Like, this was an idea of how you wanted to approach life as an improviser, and it has developed into this? Or have there been pivotal moments where you've heard something and think, "Well, I like doing something that's not just, I don't know, hard bop or, Coltrane derivative?
Well, it's been a long, long, slow process for me, and I really, over the years, it's been hard. I feel like it's taken me time. Like maybe in my 40s, I started getting more playing like more that I could, you know, I liked or I could listen to at least. Stuff before that in my 20s and 30s, it was just like, oh, was really struggling trying to figure out how I wanted to play for one thing. Like, I mean, struggling with the instruments, somewhat struggling how I wanted to play. Do I want to play like Michael Brecker? Do I want to play like early Coltrane, late Coltrane? Oh my God. Then it was like, do I want to play like Joe Henderson? At some point, Joe Henderson had said I was one of his better imitators. So I was like, okay, that's not good. But I mean, that's nice, but
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
good.
I see that. And I think that's when I came to New York. I think you were, like, ensconced in that phase. Yeah.
Yes, also, I realized at some point that, I don't wanna necessarily play things that I have worked out. I will practice, like, licks and phrases and stuff, but then maybe I don't wanna just kinda, like, regurgitate them, and then also, various times, I would be, like, trying, like, out how to pace a solo, like, do I s and I'd s start slowly because I felt like I didn't only had a certain amount of area to build to, I didn't have any high notes, couldn't generate that much energy. So I would start very slowly. And then for a long time, I was just like listening to it and I'd be like, "Oh, damn, nothing's happening. I'm starting so slowly. I was trying to figure out that balance of pacing myself, but not too much. I was listening to like people that I necessarily wasn't going to imitate, like Wayne Shorter in the mid 60s and Sonny Rollins in the mid 60s, stuff that I wasn't gonna try to play like, but just gonna clean my slate so that I could try to, like, just, you know what I mean? Get rid of, trying to, like, to play like Joe Henderson or Coltrane or so it just was a slow process, and I felt like it wasn't till my mid-40s into my 50s that I was getting somewhere with it.
Was the Joe thing, was that purposeful immersion
Oh,
playing along
yes.
with recordings? Yeah. Okay.
So I didn't learn any of his licks
Wow.
because
Okay.
I just tried to get the overall sound, and maybe some of the feeling, but the licks were hard though too. That's another thing. Because I'm kinda lazy, so I wouldn't quite transcribe the licks. Also, I didn't play any of his songs because that would be too blatant of, what I mean? I didn't really play like Joe Henderson tunes. It wasn't only till a couple years ago that I learned Serenity,
Uh-huh. Yeah. Okay.
but, I mean, we had to learn Recordame because you had to know that.
Right. Right. Right.
So
Sure.
but yes, it was conscious because I saw Joe Henderson in 1974 and I was just like, "Oh my god, that's amazing." And then when I came to the, crossroads in 1985 when I was 30, things were not working, and, I was like, "Gonna have to give up trying to play like Jerry Bergonzi, Michael Brecker, Dave Liedman, Steve Grossman." I had to give up, and I was like, "Joe Henderson, ah."
Uh-huh. Wow. Interesting, Joe Henderson story I wanna share. I did a clinic at Lima High School in Lima, Ohio,
Wow, he's
you
from
know
Lima.
yeah, where Joe's from, and, I mentioned something to the kids, and the band director said, "Oh, come here," and took me to the Lima High School cafeteria, and, they had pictures of, all the graduates, the dentist, the real estate broker, and on the very top was a, publicity photo of Joe Henderson. You know what I'm thinking? Like, most
Mhm.
of these kids probably had no clue that one of the most important, saxophonists, like, was from their high school, and the ironic thing, you probably, your generation remember this, next to him was Phyllis Diller,
Oh,
and they had, like, the same hairdo, and it looked like, like
wow.
an inverse negative of each other, or like they were prom king and
Yeah.
queen, man, but, like, Phyllis Diller, Joe Henderson, the same high school, man, crazy.
Wow, that is crazy. I was telling as one of my students yesterday, I was like he came into the room and I was like listening to Stanley Clark's first recording as a leader because it had Andy Bay on it. It's
Ah,
an amazing record and Andy Bay just passed away, and I was just like, it's Children of Forever, I think it's called, and I was like, "Oh, this is Stanley Clarke," and he goes, "Who's
Oh,
that?"
man,
And
yeah.
I was like, "Oh," yeah, I just, realized, "Oh, okay, well, this record was more than 50 years ago now." But it's an amazing record, though,
I
wow.
don't know it, I'll have to
And
check
Annie
that out.
Babe. Yes, Chick Corea, Lenny White, Pat Martino, and Arthur Webb on flute, sounds
Mm,
great. It's a beautiful record, wow.
wow.
Children of Forever.
You as an educator, what's tell me how this works. Share with our listeners, and we get a fair amount of, saxophone students checking this out, like, what's your thing? What are you pushing?
Well, okay, so I've been at William Patterson for, I guess, 19 years now, and then NYU also not that long, but, fif 14 years or something, I don't. And I was teaching at Manhattan School of Music for 5 years in there also. So, first of all, I did not think I could be an educator, when I was asked to teach at William Patterson, I had to think about it. When I was offered the job, I didn't even, I didn't apply for it. Of course, Dr. Dave Dempsey, a great guy, knew me, so I didn't know I could do it. And it's hard because, I had been teaching private lessons at home and to someone maybe who would be from Germany, and we spent an hour and a half together, and I tell him everything I know in an hour and a half, and that was it. And I never saw him again. But now I had to see someone for like 14 weeks in a row or something, which is daunting. And I have to say, still, I mean, I'm not. I don't have like a total curriculum, or syllabus, but I try to like match whatever we're doing with personally with the student. You know what I mean? Not just going to do random stuff, the same random stuff with everyone. I'm going to like really try to like address each student's needs, and I'm better with certain students than others. I mean, if someone is like an intermediate student, it's great. The more they don't know, the better, because I can really good filling in like some of the basic things and how to start improvising, how to start using the 251 stuff and, sound. I mean, just the basic stuff. I mean, it's harder for me just to be honest with really advanced students because I'm not really sure what to do with them except for just play with them. But intermediate students I love too because you can really hear the progress then. Sometimes you forget what they actually sounded like when they first started, and, but it can be very satisfying. So, and sometimes I go home and I'm like, "Oh god, did I do anything? Did I help anyone today? Oh, I don't know." Felt, not great, but, yeah, I feel like I can really lay out stuff for, like, the, kind of intermediate beginning improviser.
Alright.
Maybe not the beginning saxophone player, that's like a whole 'nother
Yeah.
ball
That's the next level for sure.
park, man, that's
Yeah.
hard. That is very difficult. People who teach, like, beginners, I really give it up to them. I'm teaching, like, college students who are, like, motivated and they wanna go to school there, and so there's no disciplinary problems really. The best at best of all worlds.
So you mentioned that you have another record on Steeplechase ready to come out. What's coming up for you the rest of this year? Does this group work?
Well, it only it only works if I ever email Spike Wilner, and I have not emailed him in a while
Spike, if you're
because he
hearing
will
this, give Rich a gig.
he will no, he
Yeah,
will if I email, but I have to
yeah,
email
yeah.
him. He will, but I just like, so that's about it. There's not that many places that, you know. Anyway, the rest of the year, let's just say interesting stuff. We have a Maria Schneider coming up at the end of the month at Birdland for a
Nice.
week, and I hear we're going to play at the Detroit Jazz Festival this year, which I'm pretty happy about. I really enjoy going there.
That that's a great festival. Yeah.
It is. So I've been there a number of times with, the Vanguard with her and the Vanguard band, and so that's great. I'm hooked up with a drummer in Germany, who I met at NYU named Mareike Wiening, who's a great, great drummer, great composer, really great person, and really, she sets up tours. I mean, she does a lot, in Europe. She was going to stay in New York for a while after school, but you know how hard it is to like, but in Germany, she's like killing it. She's like playing with all kinds of people. Now she's got a job teaching in Vienna where Andy Middleton teaches. I don't know if you know Andy
I
Middleton,
do know Andy,
saxophone.
yep, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, she's great. So I go over there with her twice a year, and I have a friend who's an alto player in Zurich that I play with occasionally. I'm going to go over there and play with him again. We're going to have a record coming out in the fall. What we did a couple of
Oh,
years
great.
ago, and yeah, I don't know. I mean, I have some gigs with my friend Matt Panitis, who's a guitar player, and we're going to record again.
Is that here is he in New York? I'm not familiar with him. Okay.
Yes, he's in New Jersey. He's in Jersey City. Yeah. His wife has a big band. She's a composer, so I'm in that also. We do our regular once a year at Birdland at 5:30 on Sunday.
I've done that.
Maybe
I've done
you're
that gig. Yeah.
maybe you're
Yeah.
familiar. Yeah, I was going to say maybe you're familiar with 5:30 on Sunday at
Yes, I am
Birdland.
indeed. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, good things, and I'm looking forward to like the break, the summer, which starts now. Actually, next week I'm going to go play at the University of Central Washington, which is in the middle of Washington. A friend of mine named Keith Carnes really has a program there, and I've known him for years. He had a job in Central Oregon before that, and he's a really talented educator and composer, big band writer. So he's a really good guy. So I'm going to go play with his band. He always has me, so very nice of
Yeah,
him.
great, man. Yeah, excellent. Well, Rich, great talking to you, man. The record progression. What's the name of the one that's coming out so listeners can be looking for that?
It's going to be called
Okay.
Dream.
Dream, also on
And the
Steeplechase.
cover looks nothing like what's in the CD.
Oh,
I shouldn't say that.
all right. Well,
The CD is gonna be for, like, more straight ahead jazz
okay.
fans, I'd
But
say,
same group.
you know? Same group, you know?
All right.
I've been trying to get the covers, get my wife involved in designing the covers and stuff, so which is good because I'm one of the few people on Steeplechase who can do their own covers.
Oh, you have that kind of currency. That's good, man. Well, cool. Well, Rich, I thank you for your time, man. Great talking to you, and music sounds great. We'll catch you soon.
Thanks, David.
Liner Notes is grateful for the support of Van Doren Reeds and Mouthpieces. Be sure and check out the Van Doren Advisory Studio in New York City for all your sound sculpting needs. Liner Notes is grateful for the support of Arlen's Good Beer in Bowling Green, Ohio. Engineered by Marco Mendoza. Visit his website at engineeredbymarco.com. The theme music is Hide, Seek, Find from the record Beatitude, out on Tiger Turn. Produced by David Bixler. Be sure and subscribe to Liner Notes wherever you find your podcasts. If you like what you hear, I ask that you consider supporting Liner Notes financially. You can do this by going to the Liner Notes tab at davidbixler.com. Thank you for your consideration.